How can podcasts and podcasting be a genuine differentiator to your consulting business? How do you make a podcast that makes people want to listen and re-listen versus the kind where they switch off within the first few minutes? And does that really matter? Should you have a standard set of questions for your podcast? And should you use subscription platforms that help you find podcast guests? Welcome to Not Another Business Podcast with me, Toby Goodman. Those are all questions Vicky Hampson had for me. Vicky is a business consultant with over 3 decades of experience working for major global brands. Right now, she's taking stock of how best to leverage her credibility and reputation to build the business she wants. If you're in business and identify as pod curious, or your podcast isn't working out the way you'd hoped, I've got more for you, including episodes, my best-selling book, Narrow Podcasting, and Profitable Pod Method Skills Sessions. For all that and more about how I can support your business, head over to narrowpodcasting.com.
How can podcasts and podcasting be a genuine differentiator to drive awareness and activation?
I'll answer that question as best I can if I have the following information. What do you want? What does your business look like in 3 to 6 months? What can I buy from you as a customer, as a client?
So it's the knowledge of what is it I do? What's special about it? How will I bring impact, results, change what's currently happening that shouldn't be or should be better? And how can you trust me to do that?
First of all, I just told you I'm about to go back to my kids' sports day. I'm in a playground. There's loads of parents. Someone says, "What do you do?" What's your answer? How do you quickly say, "Oh, right, we don't like to talk about work at these occasions, but and this is these are the kind of results I get from my clients."
Yeah, so what I do is I recognize that in the world of work, it's a pretty tough place right now, and it's not going to get any better. So I want to use my experience over the past 3 decades, the wins, the trips, the successes, to be able to help leaders show up and be even more human in the way that they get results. Managers and their teams get stuff done, because that in itself is one of the most challenging factors and challenging aspects of working life, how to get stuff done in a world where swathes of managers are being taken out of organizations and teams are getting bigger and the remit and the scope is getting bigger. So how to help managers, their teams, and the individuals within it get stuff done and actually find some joy, some love in that work that they're doing, and ultimately get to that place where they are actually thriving.
Yeah.
Nobody goes to work to just survive, whether it's to work to your desk in your 3rd room, whatever that is, whether it's a large organization or it's that amazingly fast scaling mid-size to on the up organization. And it's businesses of all sizes, shapes, maturity levels, because fundamentally it doesn't get any easier. It's just different as the organization grows, as more resources arrive. The number of times I hear managers, senior leaders say, this thing's just going to be better when we've got these additional resources. And I kind of shake my head and go, nod and yes and no. Yes, it will solve for a problem of needing additional resource because you need to unlock capacity. But for every bum on every seat and for every head in your organization, that's going to bring with it additional thought, additional work, and additional care and attention you need to put into enabling those individuals to get stuff done and for you to be that great leader and show up as a good human.
So the thing that I loved about what you said at the very beginning of that was you talked about helping people be more human, helping clients be more human.
Mm.
The thing that I would challenge you on as somebody who is kind of having a refresh of where you are with your work is saying any business, any size, because I don't think that's going to help you. I think it's frightening, but also I'm in absolutely no doubt that you can help most businesses of any size. That's not my point. My point is, it's hard to talk about yourself in a convincing way to people when you say, you know what, I'm really good at what I do. I can help everyone. Because immediately, when you talk about everyone and when you use the word people, that's not me. You're not talking to me.
Okay.
And I'm a, for example, lawyer who runs a successful law firm with 6 offices in and around London. And I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, are we too big for you or are we too small for you? I don't know. And so you are at a buffet of opportunity and you have to choose what dish you want to eat first. And that's not to say you can't come back in an hour's time or in 3 months' time and get involved in the Italian section. But at the moment, actually, that duck is really speaking to you. And I think that it's worth saying you can't, more food analogies coming out of my mind. It's probably because I haven't had enough breakfast. You can't eat the whole elephant in one go, or you can't eat the whole cake or whatever. And to say in this next phase, I'm specifically working with these people, right? So if you did meet me at the school playground and I said, what do you do? And you said, I help people be more human in their business. I'd go, oh, that sounds cool. I don't know how to help you. And you haven't activated me as someone who can help you, because I 100% could help you. If you said to me, right now, I'm looking to work with law firms of between 50 and 200 people who are based in and around London or the UK or what have you. I'm going to help them save time, save money, and actually enjoy what they do. And it doesn't matter if they're looking to exit or if they're just looking to scale. I'm focused right now on legal professionals. That's not to say you can't change that and say, right, I've now got 1 or 3 or 5 law clients, and now I'm going to move on to whatever, the next vertical. But it makes it easy, because then when I hear you say, I work with lawyers, immediately I'm going, I wonder what lawyers I can introduce Vicky to, because she seems awesome. And I know lawyers, right? Like we all do. So you're not helping me help you when you say I can help everyone. So that's the first thing. And you have to be brave, but you can't, you can't be for everyone, because you'll end up being for no one. And that's shit, because that means you won't get any gigs or clients. And you also have that thing, which I totally have as well, because you're an experienced person who's done lots with her life and you know, solved a lot of problems in a lot of businesses. You're now also in a situation which falls under the just because you can doesn't mean you should. Right? Does that resonate with you?
It really does. And it also brings a struggle, because
Of course it does. Because it's
the
hard.
brave factor, because
Right.
it excludes, in my head, a whole host of clients I've worked with over the years. So I could really easily say, I love leaders in the aerospace sector because I've been there and I've done that.
Yep.
Do I have to do that again? And like you've just done, professional services lawyers.
Okay. There's
But
another.
personally, I need variety.
I 100% agree, and I do too. But here's something else that happens. When you say, staying with the lawyer theme, by the way, use the following words before you say it. Right now, I'm working with the 2 words were right now. Right now,
Yeah.
I'm working with professionals in the legal industry to help them X, Y, and Z results, right?
Okay.
And you happen to be talking to someone who is in the aerospace industry, and they go, that sounds awesome. That sounds like exactly what we need, but we're in the aerospace industry. And you get to say, okay, occasionally I look at other people in other verticals, other professionals. I just need to find out a little bit more.
Yeah.
And I don't know. That is the magnet, because people like both sides of the magnet. Okay, I'm for lawyers.
Yeah.
I'm not for anyone else. And then there's something inside those aerospace professionals that go, yeah, but would you just, because I'm special.
Okay.
Everyone's special. So
Yeah.
I've had that all the time. I've had that where I'm going, right, I'm focused predominantly right now, I'm focused on healthcare, and I will not apologize to anyone for saying my focus right now is on healthcare. However, I do have a
Yeah.
stable of business coaches who come to me and I help them
Okay.
because I know exactly what to do with them, but I'm not screaming about it. They're just coming because there's something about me that speaks to them. And if I talk to them and hang out with them and we like each other and they ask me to make them an offer and I feel inclined to do so, I will. But they like the fact that I'm focused. They like the fact that my main thing right now is healthcare because it feels good. So that's the other thing that happens when you say, I do this, there's the what about me
Yeah.
voice that comes in from those other people. So I won't worry about that too much. You know, occasionally I do. Let's have a chat. Then that makes you that makes you somebody they aspire to be. Listen, I found this woman, Vicky. She's
Yeah.
only working with lawyers, but I actually did find out she's got aerospace experience, and I think we could really do with her help. So,
I'm not craving aerospace, by the way.
right,
And
but you know what I'm saying. Like, it doesn't matter if
yeah.
it doesn't matter. That happens when you confidently talk about
Okay.
what you're doing. So I wouldn't worry about that. I would just pick a lane. And as I can't remember even who says this, but you don't have to marry a niche or a niche if you're a Yank,
I like that. That really helps.
right? Cool. You don't have to marry it. You only have to date it. And if you date it for 3 months, that's cool. Like, you look at the big clients that I've had have been between healthcare, executive coaching,
Yeah.
and space industry, right? They're the three.
Yeah.
They're absolutely bonkers,
Yeah.
completely different.
Yeah.
And yet I have been doing the same work. Clearly, I've been doing exactly the same work. It's just helped that I've been referred, and I meet people in the space industry, or I meet an executive coach or someone who says, "What else do you do?" Because they get to know me and they like me, and they say, "Well, I'm really focused on healthcare right now, whatever." And they say, it turns out people in the space industry know people in healthcare, and people in healthcare know people in legal or executive coaches. I'm making it easy for them to know how to talk about me.
Okay.
Couldn't be less interested. I couldn't give less of a shit about growth hacking, marketing, funnel people. I just don't care. I'm in the relationship business, right? That's it. And some people don't want a relationship with me and vice versa. And if I know how to build a relationship, it's there forever, like the one we're building now. You get an insight into how I think. I'm someone. The worst case scenario at the end of this call is you say, 6 months' time, you say, man, there's this guy, Toby, you should really meet because he really helps me get clear on something. And you sent, with your credibility and with your incredible experience, people who know you, when you say my name, is so much more powerful than if I pop in their DMs, like, who the hell's this guy? So it comes back to my first question to you. What do you want? Are you trying to build a $10 million a year business? Are you trying to build an $80 million a year business? Are you just trying to make 250 grand a year, or not even that? What's the number and how much time do you want to invest? The end. You've got a life to live. You've got family. You've got travel. You've got other things. Turns out work's not the only thing. And I have to remind myself of that every single day because I am absolutely focused when I'm in my zone, right? But it would cost me my relationships with everyone, right? And I don't want to be that person. I'm not looking for an exit, for example. I don't care. I'm not looking for VC. I've helped people do it. I'm not looking for angel investors. I'm not looking for the status of having a 9-10 figure exit. I literally don't care. I know what my metrics are, and they are about my time in my business and my time with my family and my time with my friends, right? Because it doesn't last forever. And we are both old enough to have lost people and all of that stuff. And it's it's so easy to be pulled in with this growth marketing. Like, I don't care. I literally don't care. And if you talk to
Absolutely.
me like that,
Yeah.
then I'm not your guy. But I do have this thing that I'm really good at that helps people talk about themselves and helps people build relationships, i.e., sales without selling, I think, is really good podcasting. And really good podcasting doesn't need any listens. This goes out as a podcast. I'm not even going to check how many listeners it gets, but I will remember this conversation and I will send it as a nicely packaged conversation to somebody who's expressed an interest in me. So when they ring the same bells as you're ringing, I can say, before we get on a call, listen to this. That's literally it.
Yep.
Now, I'm going to tell you one other thing that we mentioned before I press record, which I've spoken about before, but I'm just going to tell you this because it's really important. And it's part of why I said something before we started recording. I said it's an agile asset, right?
Yep.
And then I said, have you heard of dynamic ad insertion? And you said that sounded like surgery. And I said, yes. But let me explain what dynamic ad insertion is. You know what a banner ad is on a website, right? And you know that when you go to, I don't know, Amazon, you suddenly see a banner for the shoes or the hair care products or whatever, and it's just there. And then the next time there's something else, because you bought that, they show you that thing. And Amazon is selling that space to those people, or Google is, or however it works. The tech in podcasting has changed so much in the last few years that
Right.
you are basically able to do that with your podcast.
Okay.
I've got an episode of a podcast I recorded a few weeks ago. I've put it out with my really good friend and client, Dana Steele, and it's called Streamlining Personal Brand and Simplifying Your Content, right? It's the chat I had. I can, with that episode, add different intros and outros at the touch of a button, and that they will be applied to every single episode I've ever put out on that podcast. So if I say at the beginning of a podcast, hi, welcome to
Got
this
it.
podcast. I'm Vicky, and today we've got a chat with Toby about this thing. That's done. That's baked in. But you can also have a thing saying, right, it's August 2025. Right now I'm opening up 5 slots for a group program for lawyers who are looking to scale without losing their time and just feeling more human. If you want to find out about that, X benefit, Y benefit, Z benefit, you can head over to mywebsite.com. Boom. That's its own audio, and then it goes into the main thing. So in 3 months' time, if you're looking for aerospace, you can click it over. Every single episode changes, and it talks about aerospace, or it talks about your new book, or it talks about a retreat. You know what I mean? Like whatever you're doing, it serves you, and that conversation is still... it's an asset. It's basically not the newspaper in the bin or the trash. It's something that you keep using, but is always up to date with the now version of who Vicky is. And that will happen. And I would normally say, right, every 3 months you can look at, is this working? Are we cool? Or do we want to change those dynamic ads? Whereas people who are podcasters who want to be podcasters as their job, they want to be famous or what have you, they sell those spaces to people that sell mattresses and Pelotons or whatever.
Yeah.
But because we're not scaling a 10, 11 figure business, if we're scaling, I imagine, correct me if I'm wrong, we're scaling a 6-figure business and maybe a 7-figure business, like somewhere between 200 and a million, right? If we're there, then you don't need a popular podcast with thousands of billions of listeners because they haven't got any money anyway. Like they're not your clients. So don't worry about how many people, worry about who. And you've got the power to do that because you're well connected. You've got a good LinkedIn. And you can say, then you use it as a absolute focused, for want of a less gross term in these times, but like literally a guided missile into the inbox of somebody you know who knows who you are already, or who knows somebody. Right, just borrowing your name off my friend Toby. He says you're X, you're Y. Would love a chat, but before, I don't want to waste your time. Before we chat, I spoke about exactly the challenge you spoke about on your latest LinkedIn post on this podcast. It's only 20 minutes long. Have a listen. Tell me what you think. Boom. They're like, Vicky, you literally, this is amazing, right? So you lead with the gift. And if one client for you is worth 5 figures or maybe more, then how many clients do you want? Don't actually need that many clients, do you? So you don't need to be playing, right? You don't want that many. So you stop playing the game of how popular can I get and how many clicks have I got? How does that change? Like, I know so many, like people are focused on the wrong metrics because they make you look at, there's a post on LinkedIn that's got no likes that I've had a DM from and got a 5-figure client off. Looks like I stacked it on that post, but I haven't. Right.
And did that go back to what you're talking about here? It's not about numbers, it's about who you're engaging with, and it's the questions that are creating that insight.
Well, there are like 2 numbers, right? There's one number which is your time, and there's the other number which is how much you've got in your bank account. And the other numbers kind of don't matter, do they? Like, really? I got 7,000 likes.
Going back to language.
Right. I saw somebody put something on LinkedIn that got him banned from LinkedIn, that got 5,000 comments and was a pretty despicable post. He got banned from LinkedIn and now half the world think he's a hero and half the world hate him.
Yeah.
But I don't know if you got any, maybe he did, maybe it doesn't matter. I've been on LinkedIn. This is how calculating I am and how calculating I think you should be is if you've had a powerful conversation with somebody and they've looked on your LinkedIn and you can see that if you've got premium and all of that stuff, you can write a post that speaks to them without naming them. Yeah. And they'll DM you. I could do that today. I could say either publicly or not publicly. Obviously, I'd never say anything that wasn't nice, but I would say, I've been speaking to a fantastic executive coach called Vicky, who is looking for ways to use a podcast. And here's what I didn't say, because I tell you what's going to happen after this call. I'm going to think of 25 things I could have told you, because that's what it is to be a person, right? As soon as you move out of a room, you're like, oh yeah. So those,
I could have said that.
Yeah. There's a French word for that, isn't there? That we don't have. That's it's, the translation is this. It's like the staircase thought or something like that. It's like the thing you have on the stairs as you walk away. I've forgotten what it is because I'm a terrible linguist, but that thought, we all have that thought. And that thought, if I'm smart enough, could become a LinkedIn post. And I could tag it. I could tag you in it, or I could actually just send it to you, send a link. Oh, I thought of this. I turned it in a bit of content. Hope you don't mind, Vicky. Either way, I'm building my relationship with you. And I'm worst case, like I say, I'm just proving value rather than just going, buy my thing. Whatever. It's not going to help. So is that helpful?
It's helpful. It's also validating, because that's what I find I enjoy to talk about. Those powerful conversations, those conversations where there's been the exchange, it's been two-way. It's not just about the thing, because it very rarely is. I do have another question.
Yeah.
Based on these powerful insights. My first question was a little bit more technical about what's the marketing approach to make it work. This time it's going back to what you said about, use podcasting to build the relationships, have that conversation. What makes for the kind of podcast that makes me want to listen and re-listen versus the kind of podcast that really, for me, I switch off within the first few minutes if I just can't engage with the voice?
Yeah, I love that. So number one, why does that matter? Because if your podcast has done a good job for you, why it doesn't matter. It literally doesn't matter. So that's the first thing, is why is that important? It might not matter. Secondly, get good at interviewing people. And that comes down to studying good journalists and understanding. I've told this story loads of times, but if you're interviewing somebody who has been interviewed before, then they're going to give a good interview, but they're going to give the same interview. If you're interviewing somebody who's never been interviewed, they might tell a great story, but they might tell it so badly because they're not used to it. They're not used to talking about themselves. So that's a delicate balance there. So the best example of this on the people who have been interviewed a lot side is you can do your research. You can look at these people and think, I don't want to ever make anyone feel uncomfortable because I'm not about making those shows, but I'm also interested in asking people questions that they've never been asked before that show that I have insight into who they are and their problem or their challenge or their goal. And I want to ask them a question that really that will stick with them. I want you hear it all the time. Well, that's a really good question. I actually want them to think it's a good question. On a talk show, on a Saturday night talk show, they've been primed. Tell me about the time when I heard about, like all that shit. You don't want to do that because they've told that story before. So you want to find something. You want to find a gap in their LinkedIn, or you want to just something like, what haven't they been asked? And what astronauts hadn't been asked, I will tell you in a second. What they have been asked is, what's it like looking out the window of a space shuttle for the first time down on Earth? And how do you have a poo in space? How do you go to the toilet? These are the most common questions astronauts are asked. And they've all got really cool answers. But you Google that astronaut, you can see blogs, interviews, newspaper, podcasts, TV shows. They've all tell that story and they nail that story because it's their shtick. Cool. Good for them. What astronauts had never been asked, it turned out, was tell me about your memory of where you were when you found out you were going to be an astronaut, when you were selected, right? Good thing about that is they were all in completely different places at different times in their lives with different technical careers. Some of them were pilots, others were geologists, others were medical doctors. So they were in very different environments. And when you get people talking about memory, it taps into something that is not what do you think about this thing? What's your memory of something? So it's probably my favorite thing is getting people to talk about memories of stuff that they've never talked about before that are positive, and they kind of relive that, when you tell a memory of moments that are exciting or poignant or what have you, that builds a relationship with the person that's asked the question because they're grateful to be able to relive that moment in their life.
And do you balance that with managed emotion, not tapping into the kind of emotions that would take the conversation in a derailed route, or is that down to a good journalist asking?
Yeah, well, what's a good question in this? What's a good question in that environment? And I'm not looking to create a piece of journalism for the newspaper. I'm looking to create a conversation that increases my bond with the person I'm talking to if I'm using a podcast that grows my business. So I want someone to leave going, Toby asked me really smart questions. And that was genuinely an enjoyable hour I spent with Toby. Secondly, I want to maybe get them to raise questions about me and my expertise so I can answer them. And they can see that I know my shit, for want of a better word. I think that's useful. What questions do you have for me is not something Michael Parkinson, famous British TV interviewer person, would ask. He would never ask that because he's the host of a TV show. But I can do what the hell I want on my podcast. So I can say, what questions do you have for me based on that? What are your memories of this? I've also found that. Have you found that? Yeah, I have. Oh, I haven't. Okay, why is that, do you think? What changed? What's the difference between my experience with a client who I would assume is the same as you, but it turns out there's not? What is that? And do you have any questions about that for me around how I worked with X to get Y? Would that be valuable to you? I can have a proper conversation with someone. And
And you,
honestly, I don't care if no one listens to it, apart from me and the person I'm having a conversation with.
that's the quality of it. So do you advocate the kind as a salesperson, as a sales leader, insightful questions are what drives me. So
Right.
that's what's super important as the core to making a great podcast. Do you advocate a standard set of questions so you get that feel for here's a good structure
Yeah.
that we can use again and again, or do you like to vary? What do you advocate? What
I,
do you think's best?
I think, I don't want to be a cop out, but I think it's a mix of both. Again, it goes back to
Yeah.
what your goals are, right? So let's go with healthcare, right? So I've got a healthcare client. I've got a few healthcare clients, work with an oncologist. I'm like, what are all the questions they ask you? What questions do you have to answer all the time? Will I lose my hair is one, right? But why don't we just do an episode about will I lose my hair? And we did an episode about will I lose my hair? And that saved them all a shitload of time answering that question to people who, rightly so, were worried about that. And understandably. So that's the other thing. I think, I think of teachers as a great example. They say, I've had 30 years of experience as a teacher. And part of me thinks, you have 1 year of experience 30 times. If the syllabus hasn't changed, like you've just done the same thing. So
Yep.
wouldn't it be more efficient if, and we're kind of, the education system in every country, but the education system here is fundamentally a bit of a mess. And I wonder how much more productive and useful the teachers could be if they didn't have to by rote do all of this stuff, because everyone's got a device. Everyone can learn the facts that they need to learn. But actually it's, my opinion, like maybe more useful if they spent more time on personal development and communication skills and the softer skills rather than learning facts, because Google is a thing that's not going away. And that wasn't the case when we were at school. So you want a hardcore of answering questions. And here's the other thing. A lot of the questions people ask you are the same as they ask any other person. But there's something about the human voice and the tone of your voice and the relationship they've already built with you, which may be a real relationship that you've both you've both communicated, or it might be that they've just been listening to your podcast for a while and you didn't know it. They just like the way you talk. And when it came to the doctors I worked with had a certain local accent from the state that they were in, and it felt like their people were talking to them about hair loss. It wasn't about some Californian talking about it or British pompous sounding person, whatever. So there was value in the tone of the voice. There was value in, feels like it's my doctor, because guess what? It was your doctor, right? Guess what? It was your business coach. So in some ways, we've been focusing on talking about podcasting as a marketing asset. I'm also wanting you to think about it as a delivery asset, because these people already like the way you speak. They like how you deliver and you help them. So you can save yourself a lot of time. What do I always say to my clients? I always say this. Do you know what? Bollocks. I'm just going to record it. I'm just going to record it and send it so that when they text me that thing on the Saturday afternoon, you can quickly, 3 seconds on your phone, go, episode 36, Bob, I'll chat to you on Tuesday. That helps you keep your life. I'm trying to build the asset for my client. And these are the questions I want to ask you if you work with me. What do we need to put out? How many interviews do we need to really have at this stage? Or do we just need to put out a few? I always suggest a mix, because I want you to start having conversations. But actually, what are these questions that keep coming up? And what I love about having these questions with these conversations with different guests for me is that you kind of do all ask the same thing, but you're all at a slightly different point in your journey. You've had slightly different experiences from a work standpoint. You're from a different place. Like, we've definitely got British banter on our side, but we've also both worked in different countries. So there's all sorts of other things going on that build the bond between, like, all being well, you know, Vicky thinking Toby's a decent guy, and worst case we'll be in each other's corners, sort of thing. So the other thing I'll leave you with is like the very front of my book and the way that I think about the guests on the podcast. It's guest selection is key, right?
Yeah.
Absolutely key. And it's not always the people you think would be great. Like, I've got a big famous name. Like, doesn't matter, because big famous names won't share stuff because they're on podcasts every week. There are people you know who are absolute superstars at what they do who don't get recognition. You can be the person that gives them that.
Yeah.
And they will scream about that podcast episode because no one's ever thought to ask them. Mainly, my experience is my honest experience is they're normally women. It's normally women who haven't been recognized in a way that men have been, or have not been as shy to talk about their achievements. Hopefully that's changed, but I've seen that theme across every single industry.
I think it's definitely something I would resonate with, and I've seen it from a learning program perspective.
Right.
You know,
So
women
you
that
can
struggle to articulate the value.
Yeah. So you
they
can
bring.
use that. You can use that because they will help you. They'll advocate for you in a way that someone who's been on 7,000 podcasts won't. So that's an important point. But guest selection, super simple. Like, maybe they're a client. Like, this is you and me right now. You might be a client. I'm not actually sure. I'm not sure. But you could be a client at some point. And we could talk about that at some point. Other two things we could be. Or you could be to me. You could be a powerful referrer to me. Which is, I spoke about that, but just to be very specific. Possible client. Powerful referrer. Someone who knows how to talk about Toby, or Toby knows how to talk about Vicky. Works both ways. Number 3, joint venture partner. We might actually do something together. That'd be cool. That might be nice. I don't know, but that's a possibility too. And going back to the client, possible client, there's two things going on there. There is possible client, but there's also existing or past client. So chatting to a past client and doing that case study style episode, really good for you, because they'll just tell you how much you've helped them, and you can go back and tell me the memory about when we first met. Where were you at in your head? We could talk again tomorrow and I could ask you that question and you'd say whatever you'd say, right? Because you've now got a memory of me over a few different moments. I've got a memory of talking to you on a Zoom, having a really good chat, and it being so good that I transferred it to my phone when I did the school run. I remember that very clearly. So I remember you saying, "Oh, I can see the cloud through your sunroof," right, when I'd parked up.
You're absolutely
So I've now got memories of you in different places,
yeah.
which is also quite powerful. And I didn't even mean to do that, but that's a thing, isn't it? So we're building that relationship. We can say, right, I've got more powerful memories of you, which is why you're at top of my mind when it comes to people talking about podcasting for business. That's my goal, and why I would give you an hour of my time, and why you'd give me an hour of your time, because you suspect I could be helpful, right? So is all this helping?
It's helping. I said earlier that what you're saying is a great validator, because also for me, it's about unlearning and relearning, you know, some of the ways to do it differently, better, with a different perspective.
Yep.
And what you've been saying in terms of the numbers don't necessarily matter. You don't need the big guests. Do you use a tool like Podmatch? You know, that's a tool that I've used previously. From what you've said today, you know, the power that comes across from thinking really intentionally about guest selection from your network, from desired individuals that you want to recognize as unsung heroes, potential collaborators. The answer's no. Do the work for yourself and go find.
Because then being on your podcast becomes a privilege. It becomes the golden ticket to the ball, right? It doesn't become, I'm on an app and this week I'm going to talk to someone who wants to help people grow business. Like, give me a break. Like, everyone's trying to be a coach who's trying to help you grow your business, which is like depressingly what you said to me at the beginning of this call, and I know that you're better than that because I know you've got 3 decades of experience, and it's a terrible way to talk about yourself. Just to let you know, you're better than that, and you're putting yourself in the absolute kind of pit of everyone on LinkedIn, most of whom aren't as anywhere near as credible as you. So why would you do that? I think Podmatch might be good in certain situations, and I've tried those things, and I think they're great for the people who own the product. What are they trying to do? They're trying to sell ongoing
Scale.
podcast product. They're trying to sell stuff. They're trying to sell a membership or whatever.
Trying to sell scale
Right.
and
But if I can get
before, they're selling numbers.
right, but it's then
clicks numbers.
Yeah, it's their $20 a month subscription that they're interested in. They can give a toss about the quality of the podcast interview. You are massively experienced businesswoman. You've lived all over the world. You've done all of this stuff. You're not just going to invite anyone on your podcast. So make me feel like when I've invited you, make me feel like I'm not just going, oh, well, I've got my Tuesday podcast done. Forget it. Not interested. Like that makes me feel like those people feel who only get asked to the party after the meal at the wedding. You know what I mean? Like you don't want to be those people. So
Yeah.
right. So use it. I don't often ask people on my podcast. I don't ask just anyone. Vicky, the reason I'm inviting you on my podcast is because I love the effort you've made on your LinkedIn. This particular LinkedIn post you wrote really resonated with me. I saw that you worked with A, and I also know that person from B, and really interested to talk about your experience. Be very specific about the invite, not just, I see you're to continue the theme, a CEO of a law firm. Would you like to come on my podcast? No. I see you're a CEO of a law firm who's worked with X, who managed to help secure planning permission for Y, which happens to be a town I absolutely love, and I've really benefited from that building and going in. Thanks so much for that. I'd love to find out a bit more about the process. So speak to someone about a specific thing. Don't speak to them about their journey or their story. Come on. Like everyone's like, well, my story is, no, just get to the point. Like, what's your point? Let's have a really specific, we can have other conversations later. So now I've got an episode where I can create a how to secure planning permission for a local building without upsetting the residents. That's the episode name, right? Or whatever it might be. It's so specific.
Yeah.
But it doesn't matter who listens to it. The conversation you have, because your invite has been so specific, has built a bond between you and the planning lawyer that I'll never forget, because it's not just tell me when did you start your practice and where did you go to look. Like they've answered those questions all day. So just make a bit more effort.
Yeah.
Don't do it anyway.
Any question.
Yeah. The journey. Tell me about your journey.
What's your story?
No. What's your story? No. Like, I kind of already know your story. I think it's not that it doesn't matter, but that's not a conversation I want to have. Because then they're going to go into this is what I say when I first meet people at a conference. And this is basically a version of my keynote. Forget it. Get them to tell you something that is absolutely specific. So they tie the memory of that conversation to Vicky, and then they want to go, so how can I support you, Vicky? Like that's a win. That was a really great conversation. I've never been asked those questions before. Post-Coital pod moment, which is the moment after they go, tell me more about how I can support you. Tell me who I can introduce you to. All of that. That makes sense?
Yeah, it does very much. What it also does is it takes me back to conversations that really stand out amid who was that with again and what was that about? Because it was a little formulaic of the story and the journey.
Yeah.
Individuals who have done something not necessarily miraculous, but what they've done really evokes that emotional thinking. It evokes that memory. It evokes what that might feel like for me. Imagine being in the room when this thing is being created.
Yeah.
So I really like what you said there, to sort of break the tradition of asking them to tell the story. And it doesn't matter how creative you can be about the story. Get to the point of what's really most important to them right now and what they value greatest. Because typically their story has taken them to that point.
A really good example of that you can hear is a couple of years ago interviewed Joe Foster. And Joe Foster is the founder of Reebok.
Yep.
Do you know
Yep.
Joe?
I do, yeah. I follow quite a lot of what they do and the books, etc. Yeah.
Right. So
Work
Joe's
as well.
like 90 the other day, and I was like, oh, get that interview out. I got the interview out again.
I saw that post, yeah.
His book came out around that time. Interesting, fantastic book. You know, about sort of post-war northern England, like really interesting. Very different from Shoe Dog, which is Phil Knight, who's the Nike guy. Like really interesting. First of all, I actually read his book, and Joe was doing podcast after podcast. Everyone's asking the same questions. So number one, I read his book, which I would recommend because it's a great book. Number two, that meant I was able to ask him questions about specific moments. And so the first question I asked him was, how did it feel when your dad said you may as well just kill me now? Because this was supposed to be your business that you inherited, and now you're leaving me to start something else. Which is very early on in his book. He leaves J.W. Foster and Sons and goes off with his brother and starts Reebok. And I just wanted that memory. I wanted that, how did you have the balls to do that to your own father, kind of thing, without being as direct as that? What's your memory of that moment, and what do you think led you to do that? Like, that's a thoughtful question that I wouldn't have asked had I just gone, so tell me about Reebok and how you grew it, because I remember Reebok pumps at school. He would have answered that and it would have been great, and he would have forgotten it in 3 seconds flat. He was actually surprised that I'd read his book. At one point he went, oh, you've actually read the book? Because he was so used to people going, oh, there's a guy who did $1 billion, $4 or $5 billion company, whatever he sold it.
Yeah.
And I'm just being trotted out because I'm just trying to sell my book. But there was something about that conversation that he'll remember. That. I know he'll remember that conversation. Not that he's my best friend or anything, but I just did a little bit more. Right, I just did a little bit more work. And also, I used the fact that I was a Brit. And I used the fact that I was a Brit who's also worked in America. And I was interested in his experience before the internet of working with Americans versus mine, where all I do is go to my garden and turn on a computer and I'm in America. So I loved that. And there's a sort of camaraderie about being Brits that work with Americans tone in that conversation as well. That was lovely because it brought us together, and I wouldn't consider him a peer, but there are things that I have in common with him that the bro dude who's got a success business marketing podcast who's interviewing, it's just like, wouldn't get that.
Yeah.
I've been to Bolton, you know what I mean? Like, one of my best friends is from Bolton. So like, you've been to Bolton too, I imagine. So yeah, cool.
Excellent. What you also made me realize is that when you ask a question, as you did of me, that kind of makes you reflect on your answer, and the answer could have been a better answer, and there's ways to learn and do things differently. You take that away with you, and I will take it away with me from this conversation to go, I really need to refocus on how I'm describing me and avoid certain ways that I've been describing myself, and also pick a lane. You know, one of the most resonant pieces is pick a lane. You don't have to be wedded to it. I don't have to marry it.
Yeah,
That's been a really big piece of insight.
Not at all. Literally just watched my little boy throw beanbags in a field and then cross over the field and run. He was focused on that for 10 minutes. He's focused on that one. And I'll go back and I'll see my eldest little boy do the same thing in a different order. They're focused on that thing in that moment, and it doesn't make them any less than. You just can't. It's just easier to run and throw a beanbag at a separate time. So I'm really glad it helped. And yeah, thanks for letting me record this, because I just thought it would be worth it.
Yeah, my pleasure. My pleasure. And it's given me practically a very good idea of how you work and how you do things. And I need to really think about, with my plan of where I'm going, moving out of the business that I've been in and how things are being done. It is about not trying to go back to that formula,
Yes.
going to a different place, doing
Yeah.
things that I really love and enjoy and have been told that I do well,
Yeah.
but not trying to recreate. Have a good think about it.
It's been a real pleasure chatting to you.
Pleasure
All right.
to talk to you.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Cheers.
Toby.
All right. Take care.
Great one.
Thanks so much for listening. If you enjoyed the episode, please give it a 5-star review and share it with someone you think it would help. If you're a business owner considering podcasting or you're not getting the results you wanted from the podcast you have, I've got more episodes, a best-selling book, Narrow Podcasting, and Profitable Pod Method skills sessions, all designed to help you where you are right now. For all of that and how I can support your business, head over to narrowpodcasting.com.